Welcome back to Birds of a Feather. This is your daily Baltimore sports podcast. My name is Nathan Stroud, and we've got some breaking news coming out of the Baltimore Orioles organization and coming straight from Jeff Passan, and that's that the Orioles have finalized a deal or are finalizing a deal to hire Craig Albernaz as their new manager. So, this is a little bit of a bonus episode. Obviously, earlier today, like a couple of hours ago, we recorded the episode and posted it already for the Ravens and Bears game. Obviously, that is the NFL. That is the Ravens-related thing. We went over that Ravens game. A lot of fun. Was not really expecting to record another episode and put on another episode for you guys today. But obviously, throughout the year and since I started the show, anytime something comes out at any time of the day, even if I've already recorded a podcast episode for that day, if there's breaking news coming out and it's worth talking about, obviously I will make a bonus episode. And the news that just came out about the Orioles, this is 100% big enough news to obviously talk about. This is what we've been waiting to hear from the Orioles. This is what we've been waiting to kind of hear from. This is like the news that we've been waiting to hear regarding the Orioles and just kind of baseball in general. Obviously, there's the Baseball World Series going on right now with Toronto and the Dodgers, so the Orioles are obviously no part in that. And there's a lot of teams out there that do not have managers in baseball, and slowly but surely, like a new manager is getting hired like every other day or so, or every couple of days. And the Angels hired their new manager the other day. The Giants hired their new manager the other day. And now the Orioles are next in line, and a little bit of a bombshell breaking news came out. This happened like 30-ish minutes ago. I was doing a little bit of research on this guy before I wanted to make this episode, but the Orioles are finalizing a deal to hire Craig Albernaz as their new manager. And a lot of the times when a new manager gets hired, a lot of the times, a lot of people, at least that are the fans of the team that they're getting hired to, a lot of the times they don't really know exactly who this guy is. So the initial reaction for a lot of people is like, who is this guy? Which is understandable, because a lot of the times in baseball, when you're a bench coach or a third base coach or a catcher coach or something like that, over time you kind of have to work your way up. And Albernaz has been kind of he's never been a manager of a baseball, he's never been a manager of a team before in his career. He's still young. He's 42 years old, and we are going to go over a lot of his history and stuff like that, and kind of just like who he is as a person. There is a article that Jeff Passan wrote kind of talking and highlighting some of the stuff he's done throughout his baseball career. And from what I've been hearing from Guardians fans, from reading, from kind of skimming over the article, which we're going to read in a second, from what I've been hearing, this is a very good hire. He was kind of an associate coach with the Guardians this past season. He was a candidate to be their manager before Stephen Vogt got hired, and then he eventually became the bench coach. And he also was a bench coach for the Giants, and he was also a catcher coach for them as well. So he has been around some MLB teams. I think since he first got hired by a team in I don't know exactly what year, but I know that he's worked with the Rays, he's worked with the Giants, and he's worked with the Guardians. So I know that those are the three teams that he has worked with throughout his career. And now he was one of the most sought-after candidates in, of all of the teams that were looking for a new manager. There was a lot of teams that were very interested in in Albernaz. There was a lot of teams interested in him. I know that the Giants were heavily interested in him before they ended up getting that coach from Tennessee. So he was a very highly sought after managerial candidate. He was one of the higher up guys. He's a younger coach who is good at connecting kind of with the younger group of players and development. That's the big thing, is development. He's a developmental coach. He's someone who is very much tuned in and tapped into a lot of the younger stuff, and whenever I say that, I mean he can kind of get through to the younger players well, and that's what he was doing with San Francisco. That's what he was doing with Cleveland. And if you want to talk about a younger manager that can get through to the young guys and someone who is a great developmental coach as well, This is a recipe for success when it comes to the Baltimore Orioles because we understand that we have one of the highest ceilings of any roster in baseball. We understand that in terms of our position players, we have a ton of young guys that are position players. Obviously, bringing in guys like Jeremiah Jackson, calling up guys like Jeremiah Jackson, Dylan Beavers, Samuel Basayo, guys like that, Gunnar Henderson, Adley Rutschman, Jordan Westberg, Colton Cowser. The list goes on and on and on. There's a ton of young players and youth talent on this Orioles team that is ready to be unlocked and unleashed and just ready to kind of go. You know what I mean? Just ready to get going, ready to start really developing and getting to that next level. And then also, with the pitchers, there's also some young pitchers as well, guys like Grayson, guys like Kyle, guys even like Trevor Rogers as well. So we understand that this Orioles team has a lot of youth talent that is just going to keep getting better and better and better as the years go on. And with Brandon Hyde, it kind of felt like it hit a wall. Obviously, we fired Brandon Hyde 45 games into the season. Tony Mancelino obviously had a connection with a lot of these guys because he's been there for the past few years. But for me, and I've said this before when I've been talking about like the Orioles' future manager, for me, I'm honestly most happy that they just didn't rehire Tony Mancelino. And this is nothing against Tony Mancelino. He's a great guy. He's a great third base coach. He's someone that had a really good connection with the players. But for this Orioles team, after the season that they just had, with how important this offseason is coming up, they needed someone who was going to completely change the culture of the team and really move forward together as a team in a new era. And that's what I was most excited about when it came to a new manager. And I felt like if we rehired Tony Mancelino, I felt like it wouldn't really be like a new era. It would just kind of be an extended version of what happened last year when he was the interim manager. So I'm really glad that Mike Elias and everyone up front did not rehire Tony. And again, this is nothing against Tony. I think that he is a great baseball mind. But in terms of being a manager of a baseball team, and especially a baseball team that has a lot of young talent, ready to develop, ready to play, and honestly ready to win a lot of games right now, obviously continuing on from 2024 and 2023, this is the perfect hire, in my opinion. And a lot of the times, again, you don't necessarily know exactly who these guys are. So for the teams that they work with, you kind of go in and Twitter replies and stuff like that and kind of ask people, like, is this guy a good hire? And it's pretty much been a unanimous yes from every single Giants fan that like knew him from when he was working there, and every single Guardians fan from this past season. So a lot of Guardians fans saying that this is a really good hire. A lot of Guardians fans saying that we got a good one. A lot of Giants fans also saying a lot of really good things about him. And overall, from seeing what I've been seeing, from kind of skimming over the article we're going to read in a second, I do feel very comfortable with this hiring. And again, it's the Craig era. It is now the Craig Albernaz era. We move forward with Albernaz. It's the new era. Obviously, this is just the start of a very, very, very important offseason for the Orioles. It all first started with getting a new manager. Obviously, we do have to hire a new GM as well, a new general manager. We do have to do that because now that Elias is now the president of baseball operations, that does leave the general manager spot open. So that still needs to happen. But a very big important thing, obviously, from a day-to-day baseball perspective, was getting Albernaz and getting a new manager, which we just did just now, like 45 minutes ago. So it's really cool that just kind of dropped. Obviously, a lot of stuff is happening right now. Obviously, the Ravens won earlier. Now we got this news. There's a lot going on randomly out of nowhere. So, again, I wasn't planning on recording another episode today, but Mr. Craig and the Baltimore Orioles made me want to come on here and obviously get an episode out for you guys because this is big breaking news. So going over this article written by the one, the only Jeff Passan, this is just kind of going over and talking about the Orioles obviously hiring Craig Albernaz as their next manager, kind of talking about a bunch of stuff that he has done throughout his career and stuff like that. So I kind of just wanted to go through this real quick before we end the episode because obviously there's not too much to go over. Obviously this is a very big thing, but as the days go on, we'll probably learn a lot more about his status in Baltimore. I'll probably have a press conference soon that we'll go over once that happens. But going over this article, it says the Baltimore Orioles are finalizing the deal to hire Craig Albernaz as manager, tabbing one of the game's most well-respected young coaches to help engineer a turnaround after a disappointing 2025 season. So, him saying that it's one of the game's most well-respected young coaches, this is a very, very good sign. Because obviously, if you're just, a fan of baseball, and, for the people that are very much in tune and stuff like that, you might know who this guy is, you might not. But to kind of hear from Jeff Passan, obviously we know who Jeff Passan is. We understand how big of a deal he is to the baseball world. For him to say this, and for obviously other teams to want him as their manager, and he was a very sought after guy that people wanted to be their next manager. And for the Orioles to get him, obviously that is a very good feeling to have. So I'm very, very happy with this outcome. Obviously there has to be, expectations and obviously results with this, but that'll come over time as the season starts. But as of right now, I'm very happy with the signing. But some more stuff that Jeff Passan was saying. He said Baltimore fired Brandon Hyde in mid-May following a 15-28 start, and named Tony Mansolino as the interim manager for the remainder of the season, in which the Orioles went 75-87 and finished last place in the AL East. Obviously, as I was saying earlier, I'm just happy we didn't rehire Tony Mansolino. Again, nothing against him. I just didn't want him as the manager figure moving forward with this young team with very high expectations. Jeff Passan was saying, with a strong core of young hitters, the Orioles' job is one of the most alluring in the offseason that saw more than a quarter of managerial jobs open. And Albernaz, who is in his previous coaching jobs, forged a strong relationships with young players and has leaned on for baseball sense, honed by years behind the plate, and leapt to one of the top in the list in Baltimore. So again, somebody who has forged strong relationships with younger players, someone who has been respected everywhere he's went in baseball so far throughout his career of coaching, and obviously that kind of really drew to the Orioles' attention. And I really do think they made the right decision. I mean, again, as you kind of hear more about this guy, the more you like this hiring, and the more you really realize that this was kind of the perfect hiring that the Orioles could have done with the young team, with them developing, and with them obviously competing, still in a win now mode scenario. This is the perfect opportunity for Albernaz to really lead this team, and this is also the perfect hiring for the Orioles in the situation that they're in, to be honest with you, especially with the young developmental players aspect of it, and also with the team that wants to win now with the situation that they're in, and with the talented players that they have on their roster. But going over to this part, it says Albernaz, who's 42, is the associate manager for the Cleveland Guardians, who won the American League Central this year. Albernaz has been a finalist for the Cleveland's managerial job in 2023, and he joined the Guardians as a bench coach when instead they hired Stephen Vogt. So he was a finalist for the Cleveland's job in 2023. They ended up hiring him as a bench coach because they wanted to keep him in the building, and they wanted to have him in the building. But now he's an Oriole, which is just really, really cool to see. And very happy with this signing, obviously, as I've said several times before. But again, this is a very, very interesting time and a very exciting time for Orioles fans, because it kind of feels like we might have gotten the right one, guys. But it says, during a 9-year catching career that topped out at AAA, Albernaz was long regarded as a potential future manager, and the Tampa Bay Rays, with whom he played for 8 years, hired him as a coach in 2015. Albernaz managed 2 years in the low minor leagues and eventually was hired before the 2020 season by the San Francisco Giants as a bullpen and catching coach. Albernaz's ability to connect with young players was a hallmark of its time in San Francisco and Cleveland. So again, that's the big thing, his ability to connect with young players, his ability to connect with the players on his team. That is the big, big thing for the Orioles, and obviously that is such a big part of it because we understand the young stars and talent and developmental guys that the Orioles have. So again, this is really just like a match made in heaven signing. And it says, and was part of his allure and was a part of the allure for an Orioles team filled with young talent, as I just said. Among stars, shortstop Gunnar Henderson, catcher Adley Rutschman, infielder Jordan Westberg, outfielder Colton Cowser, second baseman Jackson Holliday, outfielder Dylan Beavers, and slugger Samuel Basayo, and infielder Kobe Mayo. Baltimore is one of the highest ceiling rosters in the major leagues. I just said that earlier. But again, we have one of the highest ceilings. We have a very young, expected team to do good in the future, and a team that could really become a dynasty if the right things are done and, if things happen the way that it's supposed to. It says the Orioles pitching suffered last year through and through, while left-hander Trevor Rogers' breakout year and the return of right-hander Kyle Bradish from Tommy John surgery bode well for 2026. Right-hander Grayson Rodriguez is coming off of shoulder and elbow injuries, and Baltimore's pitching depth and rotation in the bullpen is limited. Obviously, we'll go over this once free agency really opens up, but when it comes to the Orioles in free agency, it really has to only be pitching. Again, we've talked about this before, getting a true closer for the future, because I don't really know what the future of Felix Bautista is going to look like, and I think going out and getting a guy like Edwin Diaz or Ryan Helsey or someone like that can be very good for the future, because we're going to need a true closer for the future, plus a couple of maybe bullpen names to just add to the depth of it, and also maybe one or two quality starting pitchers. And a couple guys in my mind are like guys like Ranger Suarez, Framber Valdez, and kind of swinging for the fences here, getting one of the top starters available. Maybe even going for a trade for someone who's available, but getting one of the top starters available, adding him alongside Kyle Bradish and Trevor Rogers. Like adding them alongside there, or maybe even being above them in the order if it's that good of a player that we end up getting. But adding one or two quality starting pitcher arms, a couple of bullpen names just to kind of add to the depth of the bullpen more, and then hopefully a closer, like a true closer for the future. So that's kind of the wish list. Like all three phases of the pitchers, like just going out and getting depth and more names, and names that can kind of push you over the edge in that department. Starting pitchers, relief pitchers, and obviously closers. So we'll see what ends up happening, but those are obviously the main things that we need to go over and the main things that we need to go do. And from reports saying that we're expected to be the most aggressive team when it comes to pitching, that is very good news to hear moving forward. And then this last little thing is saying Albernaz's first major league managerial job will be in the gauntlet of the AL East division, featuring the current AL champion Toronto Blue Jays, a strong New York Yankees squad, and the ascending Boston Red Sox and Tampa Bay Rays. So, again, we understand that the AL East is very competitive, but I do think that Craig is up for the challenge. It is officially the Craig Albernaz era. It is a very, very, very big deal. Getting a new manager obviously is a very big thing, and I'm very, very excited to see what the future for the Baltimore Orioles holds. And I do think that this was a match made in heaven signing. The more that you kind of learn about the guy, the more that you read into it, I do think that Albernaz was the perfect hiring for the Orioles, and I think that it was a match made in heaven signing. And I think that moving forward, we're going to look back at this and be very happy that we decided to go with him as our manager. Obviously, the next thing up for the Orioles is the offseason, or not the offseason, is free agency stuff. So once the World Series ends and once free agency opens up a few days later, we are going to be kind of going over some players that are available and talking about who I want to see as an Oriole, who I would like to see as an Oriole, some predictions on some stuff, who would be some good fits, and also the positions and stuff that I want to see, which we kind of went over there for just a second, kind of going over how pitching needs to be the main factor, whether it's starter, whether it's bullpen names, whether it's a closer. They need to go all out in pitching with the money that they have, because they're not really spending it on anyone. And I would also like to maybe see some extensions done for guys like Gunnar Henderson, guys like Jordan Westberg, guys like that. I would like to see some extensions done for the guys that deserve it. So again, we'll go over that stuff as it comes up over here, and then really in like the next couple of weeks we're going to go over that. But for all the guys that love Orioles baseball and all the guys that have been waiting for some Orioles content, well, you got it, because the Orioles went out there and hired their new manager in Craig Albernaz. Some very big breaking news. Another little bonus episode for you guys today, because again, this was kind of a bonus episode. I wasn't really expecting to do an episode today. But again, thank you guys so much for tuning into and listening to this episode of Birds of a Feather. If you like this content, make sure to subscribe on YouTube, follow up on Spotify. Make sure to click the link in the bio, whatever platform you're listening on, to check out the Instagram and the Twitter. Make sure to check those out. Again, I appreciate you guys so much. I only wanted to do this episode to kind of give my initial thoughts and reactions to Albernaz being hired, and obviously to update you guys on what's going on in the world of Baltimore sports. So again, I appreciate you guys so much. I'll see you guys tomorrow when we go over the Ravens. We're going to go over some Ravens practice stuff, because again, there is going to be practice tomorrow for the Ravens, because they do play on Thursday and they play on the road. So they're going to have to get their practice in immediately. We're going to have updates on Lamar Jackson tomorrow, potentially. Hopefully, we'll most likely have updates on Lamar Jackson tomorrow. and kind of moving forward throughout this Ravens year because, again, very quick turnaround. We play on Thursday Night Football, so got to kind of get going and get ready for that. So I'll have an episode up tomorrow talking about the Ravens and any sort of Orioles news, obviously, as well. But I'll see you guys tomorrow. Y'all have a great Sales day. Go Ravens, go O's, and I'll see you later. Peace out.